Hello, my name is Jules Hare, for those of you who don't know me, and today I have the great pleasure of stepping into conversation with a good old friend of mine, Melissa Baer, coming to us live from the other side of the world from where I am, here in St. Martin's, New Brunswick in Canada. And Melissa's coming in from New Zealand. Which part of New Zealand, Melissa?
Christchurch, South Island, Christchurch.
Amazing. So we're on opposite ends of time and space, and Melissa's in tomorrow. And so
Yeah.
we talked about my today is awesome, and her yesterday was awesome, which is my today, and like that. So it's been a long time since I've connected with Melissa, but we're constantly in energetic communication. And as an embodiment mentor and intuitive coach, I have lived many different realities, and I know Melissa has as well. So we figured we'd step in and share a little bit about what that experience has been for her since we've been working together. Oh, I was going to look it up in our files, but I think since you were like 15 years old, Melissa, maybe?
Yeah. Well, and before you was your mum, right? And so there was like the whole, yeah. And so that's probably since I was six, maybe.
Yeah, it's been a long time since
Mm,
Melissa's, or I should say, both of us were introduced to this
mm,
world being intuitive and tapping into our bodies and embodying our truths since we were very young, right? So
mhm,
it's be able to connect with other people who were born and raised in that experience,
mhm.
and it's so novel to other people to think that that people have known that their whole lives when some people are just newly waking up to that. You probably have that experience as well, right, Melissa?
Well, yeah, I often can't find the words, but it's sort of hard to. I sit over here observing people, and I'm kind of like, I can't explain to you what I mean by that because it's just like in my DNA. Um, and I love to see the awakenings. You can see them kind of these lights emerging, and all of a sudden people are like going, "Oh, I've never seen it that way, or I've experienced this way," and my challenge is not to go, I know, because it sounds so like arrogant sometimes. Because I do. I've known that experience my whole life, and I know it intimately, right? And so it's cool to see other people kind of getting to that place, and it also affirms kind of all of the long journey that I've been blessed to be on, because like I didn't can't control kind of like who I was raised by and what got environment and community, right? So it was really a blessing to have that, the parents, the circumstances, the things to bring me into that place where I could experience so much stuff that was like really emerging at the time.
And you probably had a similar experience to me in this regard, Melissa, is that people think because you were raised in that environment and because you have known that to be true and you've tuned into your body and your intuition, that you never have any challenges, that life must be easy.
That's exactly right. They're like, oh, well, like, and because I'll say it a different way, because I'm at work on this stuff, like, and constantly kind of tuning in, that sometimes life does look like it's easy for me, but not by accident. Like that's, I guess, the thing is, it's because I'm creating, and because I'm healing, and because I'm at work on these things. So
Well, and that like just sparks in me the thought of the fact that you're continuously working on it. And I mean, when I say work,
yeah,
work. It's not like work like you're doing and making sense of and solving
no,
and
no,
yeah. What
curious,
is
I think, continuously curious about, and
mm,
inquiring is
yes.
probably a better way to say that.
Well, and with that inquiry, because I love, it's a beautiful, beautiful word because it gives so much space and so much room without judgment.
Yeah.
He's like, pet me more, mom. Okay.
Which is beautiful.
Especially when I inquire with my hands via pet.
Dogs particularly like inquiry with hands.
Yeah, please inquire on my belly. There we go. Okay.
Oh yeah, loves it.
back to the actual interview, B.
Mhm.
That, if you were to go back in
Mm,
time, when you started to actually recognize that, your curiosity, that your
mm,
inquiry actually led to things
mm,
shifting, right? Or when you recognize you were a co-creator, which
mm.
had this for a long time, but actually going, "Oh, wait a second, I have the opportunity now to
Yeah.
change my choices make a difference." Yeah, what was memorable about that, or is there a story about that?
Um, Probably the most profound one was you coming to my house for apple butter and cheese festival and fixing my knee, right? And
Tell tell us more about that one, because yeah,
yeah,
that
so
was
that um how old would I have been? Anyways, I had an ACL rupture, right? And I was and you were pregnant with Hayden, so
oh, that
that's
was exactly 17 years ago, I can tell you that then.
and the in because I kind of probably had the experience of being able to um inquire into my internal world and have my and sort of what are my reactions and have an inner peace kind of thing. That was starting to be an agency that I had. Um, but the physical level was another one, and that blew my mind. I remember when we were sitting on the remember like it was yesterday, right? So we were sitting on the couch, brown leather couch, and um and I was distraught because it like I love using my physical body in the world. Like I love playing sport and hunting and climbing, just I love being expressed that way. And so to have a knee injury was like devastating. And then to have you come along and I remember it's kind of one of the first times that your mom had said, "Oh, actually you should probably talk to Jules because, either don't have time or whatever." And I was like, "I don't okay, cool." And I had no kind of preconceived notions, I guess. And so you came to my house because you were going to the Apple Butter and Cheese festival in Wellesley and kind of made a stop on the way and house call if you will. And then I was laying there and I so for several weeks I had felt of this weakness in my knee. It was moving. It was in all the wrong places. I couldn't, run. I couldn't like the deceleration wasn't working, and I couldn't change direction. And and then we sat there and we did a whole kind of journey about visualizing and I remember it was blue that we were, blue gel and all this kind of stuff around what was my need trying to ask for. And I got up from there and I walked around and I was like, there's stability there. Like it blew my mind that I could be at that amount of cause and effect with right. And it was a real co-created, like I've had kind of like body healers heal me, but it was the first time that you were really just asking me what was needed and my body just kept answering and that was like the whole process which just sort of struck me like wow that's a thing. So
Ooh,
mm.
not recalled all of the pieces of it, so it's so
Yeah, of
wonderful.
course not. It's like
It's a true story.
you
And,
probably recall more that you were pregnant and trying to like waddle around and try to sit on this awkward couch because it wasn't a table and
I was, like, 8 months pregnant, so it
yeah
wasn't like
yeah yeah so really like thanks Hayden and Jules. Because
but I mean, and you're often humble in that regard, but Melissa was, like, the captain of the women's rugby team, and
yeah
Canadian
but
captain, like, at one
not
point,
quite not quite I
but
was playing
yes,
provincial rugby provincial and varsity. And I think
yes,
the kind of yeah, that was because I was sort of reaching my peak. So there was a lot of emotional well, my dreams were shattered. What was happening was because the next step was the Canadian team for me. And so that was sort of that yeah, that was that moment of learning, healing. And I think I probably have used my physical body as an insight or a portal into my internal world and the sort of things that are asking to be looked at. um so
yes. Thank you. bringing it there because that's exactly the, if our body is manifesting things
Mm,
for notice, because, I often say, like, if it's like a kid, like, "Hey, mom, mom, mom,
yeah,
mom,"
yeah.
gotta catch your attention. It's like, "Well, that's not working. What if I stomp on her foot?" Boom. Oh,
That yeah, working.
that every time instead, right? It catches her attention.
Yeah, that's right. And so that's I think people often remark actually kind of on because now I'm in New Zealand, I don't have a Jules over here, and so I've sort of managed that was the first thing I did was find the team, like find the people that are my little healing community. And yeah, and because I'm constantly like kind of the awareness is probably like what did being around you when I grew up bring me is that practice and awareness. So there's always a heightened awareness of what what is occurring, right? Like recently I've been having repeating kind of like rib and shoulder stuff, which is like totally new for me because I usually don't have rib and shoulder stuff. And I was like, oh, interesting. And so I'm, well, I found a chiropractor who does a lot of like energy stuff, which is quite handy. and, and I found a massage therapist who does a whole bunch of other energy stuff. So there's sort of knowing that it's not just a physical thing, it's a manifestation of more. And so I then bring that to, the therapy session I go to and go, this is actually the same thing, right? Yeah. And that, what am I not looking at? What needs to be addressed? What needs to be, with you, it's like super fast because you just go right to the,
Yeah,
right. Yeah, yeah.
I like the way you said that too, Melissa, in that knowing that when something's coming up in your body, it's
Mm,
like for you, not to you. It's your body showing you something that
hmm.
it wants you to notice. It's trying to give you a message. And
Yeah,
when you were talking about the rugby team, like that, like the big initiative experience, like, ooh, I've almost reached the top. I haven't quite gotten there.
yeah,
And like when we up level or when we're
yeah.
on our urge to up leveling with like so many people that I work with, uh, when you're
Yeah.
at that, you need somebody to hold space for you.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Like that is holding space. Yeah. I don't know. Especially so right now I'm doing that kind of thing in my like work career. And um so I've gotten better at kind of holding space for myself and like you'd be proud my meditation practice is better. But the um there is the body goes, oh, this is new. And until you kind of have like kind of allowed yourself to just step into that new reality, it's all different and new. And for me, I find that my body just goes, ooh, and isn't quite ready until I can find energetic alignment with that new reality. Then my body is not quite there. And so it often brings up fears. It brings up all the stuff what am I lately? Fear of success, which sounds bonkers. But that is the thing, right? That is what's happening and subconsciously there's other stuff that's happening that and so I can elevate them and it's like a gift because then I can go, "Oh, okay, I can breathe into that. I can find the awareness of that and then kind of remove that barrier so that I can achieve my goals and dreams and do what I need to do." And it does feel like, well, I mean, you and I probably share this as well, like um early awareness of the kind of like spiritual path in this world, the path that we will walk, like what's that kind of, and I've just been really aware of that really early. And so it always feels like I'm pulled forward and then I find all these things out about what's stopping me. And then I kind of go to work on them and then next step and then I'm pulled forward and then, oh, this isn't quite working. Oh, what's not working? But it is always as a function of a greater vision or a greater desire that I keep finding out new, like kind of ways I can evolve. Is that the way to say
Mm.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It sparked a next question in me, Melissa, and that is, um, we travel this path or feel like sometimes we're doing it alone,
Yeah.
right? And there are other times where we actually go, wait a second, I need
Mm.
help. Our
Oh,
body,
yeah.
like, "Ugh." what's the difference for you, the times that you've like tried to do it alone, and then the times where you actually asked for help and had mentorship,
Mm,
had role models to, or mentors
yeah.
to help the difference for you been?
Well, it's probably, I've gotten better at asking for help, and some every once in a while I feel very indulgent because I have now lots of help. And but I think of it because I always ask that question, I go kind of, is this a new age thing where we have healers around us all the time? And then I kind of go, maybe as a articulated modality, but actually in community as human beings, we have always been that for each other, right? And so this is just kind of a different way to articulate that, and people are understanding. I think also there's just lots more going on. So the rate of healing and the rate of awareness is just happening faster and faster, right? So it makes sense that there are more healers out there because it's like there's just more stuff.
Or
um,
yes.
that's right. But what was I saying? I have definitely I have a very my childhood would inform kind of a stubborn, I can do it myself kind of, that's the childish element in me. And so the that streak has definitely been alive and has led me down paths where then yeah, no, I get very kind of to an end. There's like a place where it stops, and I can do it myself to a degree, and then it doesn't support me and it starts to take a toll on me. Um, so that like filling my cup and feeling that co-creation, and I guess that's why I play team sports. There's like this synergy feeling of that you can't describe, and I'm starting to have that with my team at work, and where you're like, whoa, I couldn't have even thought of that. But it is being open to the unknown. It is being open to the idea that it's greater than you could even have imagined, right? And as someone who's a pretty like big picture visionary thinker, sometimes it takes something to remind yourself you don't always know. So, mm.
Mm. There's something really powerful to that is, we often think we're supposed to know, right? A lot of
Mm,
people
yeah,
and so to not to just give yourself that, like, allowance to go, "It's okay, I don't have to know right
yeah,
now."
yeah,
Yeah, and so I have a lot of clients who are kind of at that same level for you, Melissa, when you were talking about fear of success, right? They're stepping
yeah.
into they're recognizing their
Hmm.
capacity. They wanna bring more energy and attention to their gifts so
Yeah,
that they can world, but they feel like, "Ooh," every time they do
yeah,
so. Like you said, like, programming from your past, right?
yeah,
Fear,
yeah.
right? All sorts of
Um,
things you realize were there until you tried to break the glass ceiling. Yeah,
Yeah,
go
that's
ahead.
right. Yeah, yeah. And you're like, "Oh, wow, okay, that was hiding in there." And you always used to say to me, because you would say, "What's coming up?" and or something, and I would go, "I don't know." And you go, "Well, if you did know." So I actually practice that kind of with myself now, Um, I go, "Oh, I don't know." And then, well, if you did know. And then it's like,
Love it. Like, that's right, yes.
yeah, that's right. And I'm like, "Oh." And it sort of just, like, tricks the brain into thinking that it, because the "I don't know" sometimes is a stubborn way. So there's the being curious and go, "I don't know what it could look like, and it's greater than what I could imagine." And then there's when you're doing the inquiry, that, like, "I don't know" is often like an unconscious kind of stopping point to, yeah, to killing the curiosity, right? And so there's, like, 2 sides to that, but mm.
Oh, I love how you, just, like, spun that I don't know ball whoop, all around.
It's because that's how I experience it. I was like, "Oh, there's many distinctions of this." Yeah. Mm.
Yes, and many facets to that,
Mm.
sensitivity when you're just being curious about it, when there's no judgment, when it's just a, "Okay, here's a spinning ball of possibilities, and
Yeah.
if all of it is already inside of me, then"
Mm.
right, where can we go from there? And that
And
just changed everything. Yeah.
it does, yeah, and that's the 2 sides of it, because like, you don't maybe consciously know where you're going or what it could be, but your like soul does, right? And you don't maybe consciously know what's in the way or what's the challenge or what's coming up, but your soul does, you know? So
Mm. That's exactly it. Is it's already there. You just have to bypass
yeah.
the brain. You said right. So,
Yeah, which mine's like but I think that's probably the thing that with you and I, like, I always say I have a super high functioning, like, override, like, my prefrontal cortex is, like, super strong, and so that's the challenge for anyone with me is to, like, get past it, get beneath it, and so and for myself, right, is to just go, "Thank you, you have a functioned, it's not here," and I don't have to, like, be logical about this, right?
I love that you said that, Melissa. Can you how is it then that I bypass your brain, that prefrontal cortex, that executive functioning system? Like, how is it that you feel like
Mm.
somehow Jules does it? What is it? First thing that comes up doesn't need to make sense.
Um, I was gonna say there's a few things that came up. There's sort of like well, there's probably a practiced habit that I've created with you. So like I associate you with like safety or it's okay or everything works out when I'm with Jules kind of thing, right? So I can drop into that. But equally the yeah, just that kind of creating, everything is okay because I guess that's what this CEOs of the brain's job is to keep you safe, and so by just creating space that there's nothing to get, there's nothing wrong here, there's nothing to fix, there's nothing, right? Then the brain's like, "Oh, well, I have no job here, so"
I can do the little
Yeah, I'm
mini.
just doing this, yeah.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that because it's always I'm inside of me, just like you're inside of you. We
Yeah,
can't see,
yeah, yeah.
light, but also sometimes we can't see our own gifts because we're inside, right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah, yeah.
That means a lot to hear you say that too. Um, I right now, and as you know, as we know, because we're continuously growing and learning and changing all the
Mm,
time, committed to change, continuing to up level myself, just like you are. And I saw
mm.
you like on stage with Zach Bush in an Instagram post or Facebook post. I was like, yay! Like Melissa and Zach hanging out together. That just made my whole like body so happy and all the like truth bumps sort of way. I was like, you're stepping into what, way back when we used to talk about, like, what
Mm,
you knew you were capable of. You're stepping
mhm.
into it and with such passion and such love and such smiles, and you can just tell that you're just shining in it. And obviously, it doesn't mean that you're not struggling and challenged, and then
Yeah,
the next one, the next one, the next one. We all know, like, growing
yeah.
continues, right?
That's right.
But if, now that I'm working on, focusing on holding
Mm.
space for those who hold space for others, right?
Yeah,
No, that is like the people who hold people up need people to hold them up.
them up. Yeah, that's yeah. I
Yeah.
think I don't know if this was a question, but it's sort of that's what I feel like, because I have sisters that are probably more in the or one sister anyways, that's probably more of a more obvious healer, right? And having grown up with you and, you know, and people have often remarked, like why are you not in this in sort of some sort of healing modality? And for most of my life, I've thought maybe I should be like a coach or a something or a life coach or a whatever. And for whatever reason, I'm not. But every single area in my life, how I run my teams, how I hire, how I do sales engagements, how I do project completion, how I do it's enrolling, it's inviting to be curious, it's, um, holding space for my team to show up and holding space for a vision to be emerging, to hold space for, like, the conversation to go a certain place. So, every single moment and and it's kind of why I love what I do because requires me to be all of me, right? All of the stuff that which I can't tell people, like, I was trained in this, like, I've have the experience in holding space, and I it's hard to be like, "Can you, as, train your employees to do the same?" All I can do is model it, but that's what it feels like because the work I do it's well, it's healing, it's planet healing, right? Like that's kind of the thing is we can heal the connection between where food comes from and the growers in a longer supply chain, which we know the healing that happens when people are connected and their food and they're connected to their food, right? And that's what's happening now, or that's what I'm creating or we're creating over longer supply chains, which is super, super exciting. But it takes something to stand in that is possible and to invite other people to stand in that is possible and to not get sort of titchy about competition because and just to hold the vision big enough that everyone can play that all that kind of stuff. So it's funny that you say that you're holding the space for the people that hold the space, because that is exactly kind of how I feel, even though I'm not obviously like healing other people or holding space in that way. It is it's a big job.
Well, you described it there is so beautiful, Melissa, and I couldn't have said it better myself. I was talking to a good friend of mine, Tracy Shea Porter, and she holds space, but she, within different corporations, she teaches
Mhm.
so that
Mhm.
people can connect with each other, right, via improv. And the magic of just, she said, I hold space, but not the way that other people think holding space is. And I was
Yeah,
like, yeah, want to just work with healers and coaches, et cetera. I do want to work with them, but we have
yeah,
to recognize teachers hold space and
yeah, oh
parents.
yeah.
And once somebody recognizes that they have that capacity to hold space, then they know that's what they're doing, right?
That's right. Yeah. And I kind of probably have been lucky enough to know that that is what I'm doing. But there's probably a lot of people who don't know that the kind of like ambition or the what they're up to is doing that, right? Just by the function of having the vision or having the who they are in the world creates that kind of profound effect on people. And so
Mhm.
then and they don't often know that they need people like you or people to hold them up. I even said to him, I have a woman I see regularly, and it would be remiss to say she's a therapist because she's like all the things, and she's just like just a beautiful soul, and and um she's like kind of my Southern Hemisphere version of Jules, and she um I was just saying, I was like, I feel kind of indulgent because I've got a lot of support around me now, right? And I have the different people to do the things to just help me be the best person I can be so that I can do this big job. And
Yeah.
she was like, "No, you're up to big stuff. You got to do it." And I was like, "Oh yeah, okay."
But the way that you said that too, like you need to hold that vision, which means you also need support
Yeah,
for yourself so that you can
yeah,
hold it for all those people so that people can step into the idea knowing and trusting and believing in it.
yeah,
That's a huge, so you need to have people hold you up. Like that's I love,
yeah.
yeah.
It's the only way. Like it doesn't work. You run out of spiritual energy real quick if you don't have that.
Mhm. And the way you described your team as well,
Yeah.
working with a community of people with shared
Hmm.
vision, you're
Hmm.
there to hold that space and they're holding your space in different ways as
Yeah.
well. It just all works so magically and beautifully together.
And it's super cool because now we're getting that, like, because I guess I would have held the space, let's just say where there was like maybe non-belief or not quite full belief or not clarity of what it could be. So I'm just sort of standing in that it's a thing, right? And just almost dogmatically like it's a thing. But now because people are like stepping up, it's almost like the space is expanding because people are actually stepping into that, and it's now is like bigger than me. I was like, oh, okay. So I'm like, this is great.
I can feel that when I can I can envision it right now. It's like, oh, and that's really what it is when we create a vision. We create
Hmm.
a, we have to we have to build in our own capacity and confidence and trust in ourselves to be able to
Totally.
take space,
Yeah.
right? Once you're in the space and once others are invited into that space, you don't have to hold it so tightly. It's,
No,
yeah, but it
and
takes
that's
so much care.
yeah, it does, and it's actually, in my experience, everything from like, I wanna change the world to I wanna change me. And so even just holding space for yourself to show up differently, because people will react to the old you, and so it takes courage and support um to help to show up differently consistently, and then eventually people will start to relate to you and be invited into that new reality of you. But sometimes, you know, like if your dad or someone has, and I've experienced this, you know this, right? um, I am different after living across the other side of the world, right? And I go back home to a farm and a context and a like the world. I just walk back into like a little diorama with a perfectly like shaped old Melissa shape, and I can like walk back in, and like it's sort of like a an old pair of shoes. You're like, I mean, yeah, they did fit at one point, and the whole world relates to you like you're that person who wears that pair of shoes. And so it takes something to like be different, wear a different pair of shoes in that old context. It is like and that happens at family levels, at relationship levels, at that really like individual level. And so that's like the kind of like microcosm of the bigger stuff that we're talking about. You're actually holding a new possibility for yourself in an old context, right?
Oh, I love that. And reinventing yourself, like reinventing yourself ain't easy. That should be on a t-shirt. Reinventing yourself.
And if the external world would have it their way, they would have you stay the same because it's easier to understand.
Easier to put somebody in a box, right? What is
Yeah.
it? Don't put what's her name in the corner? What I forget the reference. The Dirty Dancing. Don't put
Oh,
so
don't put baby in a corner.
don't put baby in a corner. Right? Don't put Melissa in a box,
No,
right?
that's right.
But it is. It's easier to just even just in our own heads, like, oh, this is the person Melissa is, and that's the box we put her in. Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Oh, it's a file. Let's close the file folder. Oh, amazing. Because as soon
amazing.
as something change, it takes more energy, and then you have to get to know them differently. It's like, I don't have an energy for
Well,
that.
and I think like the brain is efficient, right? It's designed to go like to file things and categorize things so that it can do the business of keeping you alive. Like you kind of go, okay, it has its function. And so you talk about curiosity, you talk about like sort of that spiritual energy. That's what it takes to be in the world today, to meet people newly every day, that they could show up differently into a different kind of possibility. So yeah, takes people, it takes more than one person to do that that supporting job.
Yeah, and the courage, and also remembering too, just like you said, you're the only one who can choose to create a new reality and then
Yeah.
step in. It takes so
Yeah.
much courage and
Yeah.
energy, like away from that efficiency. It takes so much
Yeah.
energy to build
Oh yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. Like it would just be it's a lot easier if you just keep running in the familiar, right? You just go, oh, this is the path is worn this way. So I'll just go this way. Right. But to forge a new path is like a lot of overhead, expense or capital or energy. And then once that pathway, neural pathways is the what we're talking about, right? But once that pathway is trodden more often, then it's you can run that path a bit more often.
wow, and it just came to me now. I was like, oh, and that's why we need mentors, guides, helpers, like somebody holding space for you because they're actually
Totally.
holding alive for you that you know you're capable of and
Hmm.
holding for you until you get there to take up the space fully.
It's like seeing your brilliance when you can't see it, right? Having people around you who can see you for the brilliant person you are when you just can't.
Yet.
Yeah, that's right. There's just moments where you're like, you're just not kind of like caught in it, and someone just kind of goes, no, 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 the light's over here. And then you're like, all right.
Sometimes those nudges, and sometimes those nudges are a little bit more intense.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, I'm so excited. It's been such an amazing talk, Melissa. There's one more question,
Mm,
and that is from your expert opinion, personally, professionally, soul aligned in that regard. If somebody was engaging with you, and you could tell that they were on the brink of discovering their own gifts, and they wanted
yeah.
to They wanted to step in, but they didn't know how, right? Or they didn't
Mm,
know what would you recommend for them?
um, I secretly do this, almost, on a daily, weekly basis. How it shows up for me is, I don't know, I have like a sixth sense, or like it's like I'm a truffle pig for people who are curious. Oh, there's an opening? Like, there's like, because people who are not an opening for support, you can tell them all you want, they're not. So I just sort of somehow managed to have this little, like, skill where in everyday conversation with my friends or people I don't even sometimes people I don't even know, um, I could just spot the opening. And I am just, I have like a promise to myself that whoever is the person or the thing or the book or the that I feel that pops into my mind in that moment is what I will say. So it is just like I'm just there, and I spot an opening, and then there's like often a thing that I'm like, oh, and I just say that as I look. I don't know if this is something you're open to, but in my experience, and I just share about how it has been for me. And then I go, and if it's something might want to consider, life could be different. Here's a person, here's a thing, so it's like I've found it for me, it's a powerful referral way, is like I just can spot the opening, and then I'm like, kind of speak into that space. And then I find that well, I mean, oftentimes I refer Allison, my Southern Hemisphere Jules, and I have theta healing people. I went and did some energy healing workshop to be trained as a practitioner, but I don't really practice. Like, I'm not paid to to practice, but I practice every day. So I have now friends who do all that kind of thing, and yeah, it just sort of I have a whole expansive network of people and things and books and resources. And when I just spot an opening, and then I'm just present to which one or several is coming up all the time, and then I just say that.
Amazing. And what lucky people that are receiving, which I didn't get to ask you, Melissa, I
Mm.
know that we've done some sessions over the phone,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
like over the phone, long distance from
Yeah.
Canada that have been pretty profound. And some people have trouble like envisioning the fact that that could be
It's
possible that
possible.
you
Yeah.
do virtual sessions. So, yeah, what has been your experience of having virtual sessions?
Um, Really no different. It's, I think, well, especially because with you, like being on the couch, right? You could have done that remotely because it was inviting me to participate as much, right? So I think that's the whole thing. Is I don't know how I know it's not any different. It's just like there's no we're connected, like, energy spiritually. So um and maybe just because I've experienced that it doesn't need to be in the physical space for it to be profound. But yeah, I've felt it to be just as, if sometimes if not more, like, because there's not um an expectation in the physical world that something will, like, you know I described it kind of like, well, you trained as massage, right? So, like, that was the original massage training, right? And then there's like this movement into energy healing. And I see it with my sister as well. And then there's sort of this, like, almost like a confidence and belief that actually you move from the physical kind of hands-on scratching, touching, to actually just addressing the energy body. And that it has felt like that's been my journey, is and society's journey, that we can now kind of believe that it doesn't have to be physical, it can just be energetic. But
Mm. Yes, I love that, and I think just like you said, it is society's journey. Like we're now stepping into like the divine feminine energy of just being, not having to do and fix and solve and logically make just coming through us. Like people are
yeah.
waking up on nature. They're like, "What the heck is happening here?"
Yeah, that's right.
Right? As they trust it, it just is, and it feels
Yeah,
good. Oh my goodness, when I follow it, like things work out. So I got to keep going
and
with
but it
it.
is trusting it, right? So, like, that's the whole thing, is if someone's doing it for the first time remotely, there's kind of that, like, "Can my brain imagine that this can be true?" kind of thing. And but you're really good at like just creating, just pretend like it's like a world where this is how we do things. And you're like,
Oh,
okay.
here we go.
Yeah. And then your expectations drop away. And that's what I mean by it can be more profound, because you're not like in this, I'm going to Jules to get this fixed. Um, you actually become more in the inquiry, because you're like, well, this is bloody weird. And then your brain doesn't have a frame for it. And so then it's not in the way, right? So you're not like expecting to be poked and prodded or adjusted or whatever. You're actually just there being in the inquiry.
Yeah, I love it. Just the thought of being in the inquiry just feels good. Like just to be curious,
Yeah.
like to curiosity as curiosity. That's pretty fun and playful for sure. One last question for you, Melissa, and I won't
Hmm.
make. Sometimes I'm like, oh, if you were to be a unicorn, what color unicorn would you be? Um, although if you want to answer that later, I'm not opposed.
I'm like, hmm.
But the question is for you: if you are talking to somebody who was contemplating working with me or contemplating stepping into their own intuitive nature and choosing to have me as their guide or choosing
Hmm.
their mentor, what would you say to them?
If you can get time with you, you're lucky. I don't know. Yeah, that's, well, I guess that's the truth, but also, it's an exciting journey. I mean, there's untold amount of possibility, and you won't know yourself in a good way. You'll show up differently, and you will, you will achieve dreams you don't even know you have right now.
I'm doing that with the, just that little bit of extra like potential for tear coming out there. And knowing too, like dreams we don't even know are possible yet, right? When we look back in time and space, like the things that we've achieved that we couldn't have even possibly dreamed,
You
even
couldn't
though
have
we,
even You didn't even know that they were dreams. Like they were, like you didn't even dream them yet. And then, but you make space for those to turn up. And because if you're the person that you are now, you dream certain things. But then when you have you and around you, you kind of go, oh, and you're at a different plateau on the mountain, right? So you can see a different mountain top. And then you go, oh, do I dare to dream that mountain top? You know? Ooh.
I love that. You know what? I'm going to leave it on that because I think that is the best message to leave it on. Do I dare to dream that mountain that just appeared that I didn't even
Yeah,
know?
that's, yeah.
I'm going to leave that there.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining and for sharing with everybody who's going to be watching this. There's something so powerful. If is there anything else that you'd like to add to anybody who's watching this, who's like stepping up into their own awesomeness, who's like on the verge?
Oh, no, just welcome to the party, man.
Welcome to the party. We're glad to have you as a teammate.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. Mm,
Dreaming and co-creating into
mm,
reality that which we believe and know to be true in our hearts, but until we dive into our hearts,
mm.
we don't know what we're capable of. So that
That's
inner
right.
truth is like, go, it's
Yeah.
starting, it's beginning, it's continuing, it's gonna keep going. So yeah, join the party. Thank you,
Yeah.
Melissa.
Thanks.
Yeah, amazing.